Tigers get blown out against the St. Louis Cardinals in the series opener, 11-4. The final, there was even some rain mixed in there as well, and we'll break it all down, talk about that, the Reese Olson update, and so much more. It's all next on Locked On Tigers.
This is the Tigers Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Detroit Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, here we go. Welcome one, welcome all. The intro was somewhat correct. This is part of the Locked On Tigers podcast, and I am not Scott Bentley. I am Jake Rietma. Happy to be filling in for Scott Bentley on a little pinch hitting bullpen, call to the bullpen action, and wishing Scott all the best. Just wanted to send that out right away. The bosses at the Locked On Podcast Network asked me to pinch hit, so happy to do that here on the Locked On Tigers podcast. Some of you might recognize me from the Locked On Tigers postcast, which is a shameless plug. If you haven't yet, make sure you check out the Locked On Tigers postcast. It's our post-game reaction show, and it's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every day. Great show lined up for you today. We're going to go over that opening series dud in St. Louis against the Cardinals, who are playing some great baseball right now. Sonny Gray was fantastic. And the way AJ Hinch was able to navigate through that rain delay, I think that'll be important moving forward. And of course, we'll look ahead to today's game with Tarik Skubal on the bump and some updates on the injury front with what's going on with Reese Olson. So all that's coming up next. And as I mentioned, my name is Jake Rietma. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake_Rietma, and fired up as always to be on the Locked On Tigers podcast, your team each and every day. Hey, how about a huge shout out to today's presenting sponsor, making it happen. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head over to FanDuel.com and get in on the action. Now, as I mentioned, with the Tigers losing the series opener to the St. Louis Cardinals, that's just the third series opener this Tigers team has lost out of 16. So pretty incredible stuff when you think about where this Tigers team is at in terms of getting ahead in series. It's a rare occasion in which they lose a baseball game to begin the series. So maybe it's a case of getting the bad one out of the way early and then moving on to bigger and better things here in the next game with Tarik Skubal on the bump. But quick recap of last night. Look, a lot went wrong. Sonny Gray shut this Tigers offense down. Dylan Dingler in the third looked like he might have a solo home run to tie the game. And off the bat, I'll be honest, I thought it was gone off the bat, but just instead it's a double and the Tigers offense unable to do anything with that throughout. So that's kind of the bummer of it. Sonny Gray, as I mentioned, was dazzling on the mound. I mean, just striking guys out left and right. 10 strikeouts for Sonny Gray in his fifth win of the season. What a season he's off to. 5-1. He goes 6 innings, 3 hits, did not allow a run. He struck out 10 and only walked 1. Now, where this started to go wrong for Keider Montero, who started the game, gives up the 1 run in the first and then 1 in the fourth as well. But that 5th inning, you got Keider Montero on the bump in the 5th inning for the Tigers, and you get the leadoff single, back-to-back singles to lead off the inning with 2 on and nobody out, and already down 2-0. That's when the hit parade continues, where it's a single to left to load the bases. And then it was just RBI ground out after RBI ground out after RBI ground out. I mean, you're getting the ground balls, but the damage had been done in the sense of loading the bases and putting the Cardinals in position to score without necessarily needing a base hit. So all that to say, it wasn't Montero's best start. And if you're with us on the post-game show, I discussed this a little bit at length, that Montero just feels like that in-between guy where he's just not – he hasn't taken that 5th starting spot, and he hasn't really been asked to with the depth that this pitching staff has. But when you have Reese Olson and Casey Mize go on the injured list, you need that guy to step up in the spot start situation. And Montero at times, yeah, I guess you could say has. And, I go back to that start against the Colorado Rockies, and nobody's crowning the Colorado Rockies as anything besides a horrible baseball team. And for him to go 8 innings, I don't want to take anything away from him because it's still very, very difficult to go 8 innings in a game. But that's the start that stands out to me for Keider Montero. Is can he be that guy that steps up in a spot start situation and puts forth a clutch outing? Now, that didn't happen today, and AJ Hinch was forced then to manage with the threat of weather looming largely throughout the course of this contest. And he talked about it post game, and rather than manage for the rest of this game, you're really in a setting where you're trying to weather the storm, both figuratively and literally, with not necessarily sending out your top arms in the bullpen to burn those arms in the opening game of the series, in which, frankly, it was out of reach. And that's why we get to see a little pitcher player. You get to see a little position player pitch. Wow, let me try that again. In the form of Tomas Nido, who comes in there and just throws like 30-mile-per-hour pitches, which was fun to see. But you know what? He was fantastic. He goes an inning and 2/3 and retired. I believe retired every batter he faced there in the bottom of the 8th, getting the ground out, and then a couple of pop outs, or I'm sorry, 2 pop-ups and then the ground out. So there you go, Thomas Nido. In our post-game show, we have a player of the game, and maybe he was the player of the game for the Tigers. No, I kid. But that being said, this is one that you rinse, you move on and move past it, because there's going to be nights where you just don't have your A game. You don't have your stuff. And this was certainly an example of that. And again, it's been a rare occasion in which the Tigers don't come to a series, not even necessarily not ready to play, but just not having it being an off night in the first game of this series. So Cardinals win it 11-4. Tigers now 31-17. Still sounds crazy to say out loud with the best record in baseball, 31-17. Still 2 games above the 500 mark on the road at 14-12. But man, the Cardinals climbing and climbing. They're now 6 games above the 500 mark at 27-21. And similar to the Tigers, they have played excellent baseball at home at Busch Stadium. They are 16-6 on the year. So how about that, sports fans? All right, we're going to continue this episode of the Locked On Tigers. I always want to say, listen, I think I should throw it out there. There's going to be times I might accidentally say Locked On Tigers postcast. It's muscle memory. It happens. And so if and when that happens, I'm going to go ahead and apologize ahead of time. But again, if you're just now tuning in and for some reason jumped ahead, do not adjust your podcast dial, your YouTube dial, wherever you're watching today's show. Just pinch hitting, stepping in, because the boss has asked me to fill in for Scott Bentley, who we are thinking of and wishing the absolute best, because he is one of the best. He is the man here on Locked On Tigers. All right, don't go anywhere. We're going to keep it rolling. When we come back, we'll talk a little Reese Olson. That's coming up next on this episode of the Locked On Tigers post. Now, see there, I did it. Locked On Tigers. This episode of the Locked On Tigers podcast is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. That's right. If you need that snack that's both delicious and nutritious, well, how about you crack into a great source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios? Wonderful Pistachios, well, they're one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. I actually said that one correct that time. All right. Help keep you feeling fuller longer. I love the no shells variety. They're great for a grab and go snack. And you know what? If I'm posting up watching 9 innings of baseball, or maybe 7 innings and a rain delay like tonight, I love the shell variety. The challenge of cracking open that shell is so satisfying. So either way, get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. That's wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Wonderfulpistachios.com. All right, it is Locked On Tigers, and I am, as always, fired up to be with you and wishing our guy Scott Bentley the absolute best. Wanted to dive into the Reese Olson injury discussion with the exit on Saturday against the Toronto Blue Jays after 85 pitches. And admittedly, I didn't know this at the time, and I don't know if anybody did, but the discomfort in the ring finger landing Reese Olson on the injured list for 15 days retroactive to Saturday. So a bummer, and hopefully it's just the 15-day variety, and it's a very, very minor setback, similar to the Casey Mize injury situation. And these hits are going to happen. It's a part of the game. I think we can all agree with that. However, it's a matter of what will this Tigers rotation look without him? Chase Lee has been the guy that's been called up to fill that spot. Chase Lee now back with the Tigers big league organization. And so with the injury of Reese Olson, you got a bullpen day tomorrow on Wednesday's game, and Jack Flaherty's start being pushed back to Thursday against the Guardians. And what a series that will be at Comerica Park, where the Tigers have played better than anybody with how well they've played at home. Also, wanted to get to this from Tigers PR about how good Will Vest has been. If you've missed this, Will Vest is the only pitcher in the American League to have 3+ wins, 5 or more saves, and a sub 2.00 ERA. And even though, again, if you watch the postcast where we have the instant game reaction show where he gives it up on Saturday, and, you feel bad for the guy in that sense, but how good he's been this year is really, really impressive, especially in comparison to the statistical prowess he's put up in comparison to the rest of the MLB. Dating back to the start of 2024, Vest 2.54 ERA ranks 8th among AL relievers with a minimum of 70 appearances. So how about that, Will Vest? You got to love that. Now, I did mention in the previous segment AJ Hinch managing with the sense of the weather that was on the way in St. Louis last night against the St. Louis Cardinals, and the weather that was building up, and you knew it was coming. And rather than burn any bullpen arms, I thought AJ did a good job of, almost understanding what yesterday was for what it is, and not burning a ton of pitchers after that. I mean, you had Brevia get absolutely schlelled in the 1/3 inning of work that he had, giving up 5 runs and giving up a home run, and they were just hitting the ball all over the yard with him in there. And rather than, I think I'm very sorry about that. I'm good. I think I just had a bug fly in my mouth while I was talking. I mean, that is crazy. You can't make that stuff up. We're good. We rallied though. But then to have Nito go in and pitch the rest of the way, and to his credit, he gets some outs there. But that's the update on the Tiger side of things with the injury to Reese Olson. Hopefully it's just a minor thing on the ring finger with the discomfort there, and that just takes a couple of days to heal, and he's back and better than ever, because boy, was he really impressive against the Blue Jays on Saturday. It looked like he was really starting to come into his own, and you can say that about every pitcher on this starting pitcher for this Detroit Tigers team. I mean, guys coming into their own, and I mean, you don't post the best record in baseball towards the end of May through, a significant sample size without excellent starting pitching. I mean, it can be done in a multitude of ways, sure, but that starting pitching and how good it's been is certainly at the top of the list for the reason this Tigers team has been so successful. The offense has been great as well, and the defense has as well. That's what happens when you win a lot of baseball games. It's good all the way around. All right, other things to get into from last night, the offense being shut down. I mentioned that Sonny Gray had his way, but Kerry Carpenter, another tough night at the top of the order in the leadoff spot with Sonny Gray and the right-hander that he was. Obviously, it's one of those instances where you're hoping Kerry Carpenter in that spot, and he's proven it time and time again, can provide a spark for you. Gleyber Torres in the 2 spot, 0 for 3. Colt Keith had a tough night, 0 for 4, and Riley Green with 1 hit, 1 for 3. But the majority of the production coming from the bottom of the order and late in the game after it had already been out of reach and out of balance. So Tigers scored on an RBI double from Akil Baddoo in the 8th, and then Andy Ibanez, which, give him credit, was up against a righty, and he just doesn't get a lot of at-bats from the right side of the plate against a righty. So Andy Ibanez with the RBI double, scoring Justin Henry Malloy, and then the sac fly from Trey Sweeney and Dylan Dingler, the RBI ground out, were the way the Tigers scored those 4 runs. So I mean, tomorrow or today, I guess now, I got to get used to the Locked On Tigers mindset here. Work with me here. But you got Tarik Skubal on the bump, and it goes without saying. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I'm not telling you, some groundbreaking thing with Tarik Skubal, but every time he takes the ball, you just feel like that's a game that you're going to win. I mean, yes, he's 4-2 on the season, 2.67 ERA, 71 strikeouts, but it's the mentality, it's the mantra when he takes the mound, that bulldog mindset of just going after the opposition that you love to see. And I think you could say the Tigers need this one. It's been not a lengthy road trip, but you get 2 out of 3 on the road in Toronto, and even though you drop the series opener against the St. Louis Cardinals, in this one, to finish the road trip at or above 500 would just be huge for this Tigers team to keep the momentum going against a really good St. Louis Cardinals team. There's certainly no doubt about that this is a formidable baseball team. All right, we're going to tie a bow on this one and wrap it up as we continue with the Tigers Locked On Tigers daily show here on Locked On Tigers. Hey, this episode of the Locked On Tigers postcast is brought to you by FanDuel. That's right. America's #1 sportsbook is FanDuel. And right now, new customers can make every moment more. And you know what? The NBA playoffs, well, guess what? They are in full swing. And every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never, ever been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live during the game with maybe a little same-game parlay, some player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays stacked where the odds are in your favor. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. You got to know which players are showing up in the biggest moments, and how could tracking their trends build your next best bet. Well, that's why you got to stay up to date on it all. Add a little sizzle to your viewing experience. And for new customers, guess what? If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up and head over to FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com, and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets at FanDuel.com. $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet hits. And that's at FanDuel.com for new customers. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Locked On Tigers podcast. Happy as always to be with you, pinch hitting and filling in for the legendary Scott Bentley on the program. Appreciate your patience and flexibility as we manage and maneuver the ways of the Locked On Tigers postcast, transitioning to the podcast. So another opportunity to mention the coverage that the Locked On Podcast Network provides around the best baseball team in all of Major League Baseball. Boy, it's never going to get old saying that. The Detroit Tigers, even though they lose to the St. Louis Cardinals in the opener 11-4, they'll be back at it with the chance to even up the series with Tarik Skubal on the mound. Now, first pitch in that one set for 7:45 Eastern time for the Cardinals, and they'll trot out Erick Fedde, who make no mistake about it, in 2025, 3-3 on the season, 3.44 ERA in 9 starts. He's thrown 52 innings, 32 strikeouts, a 1.30 whip. And Fedde is a guy that, he's not going to go out and dominate by any means, but it'd be nice to see the Tigers jump all over a starter like they've been known to do time and time again with their ability to put up runs early and often in a ball game. Now, Skubal, 4-2 on the season, 2.67 ERA in 9 starts, 54 innings pitched. Look at the strikeouts, 71 in a 0.93 whip, and continuing to stay at pace of that Cy Young season he had just a year ago. Now, offensively, big opportunity for the Tigers to bounce back after kind of a dud, the 4 runs coming in the last 2 innings, shut down until then, and a lesser of a pitcher to go out and get that done for the Detroit Tigers. Other news and notes around the Tigers, I mentioned how good they've been in series as of late. They've won 4 of their last 5 series with that series win over Toronto. And after this one against St. Louis, it'll be back home against the Cleveland Guardians. And looking at the division, I mean, my goodness, it felt like the Minnesota Twins were never going to lose a game again. And that's just, I know this was touched on one of Scott's episodes a while back, but to poke fun at the American League Central, I mean, it just looks like one of the classic freezing cold bad takes from Jeff Passan. And he does such a great job covering the sport that, of course, this is just one little minor hiccup. And you know what? At the time, it was the AL Central was bad, but it was like 4 games into the season. So you got the Twins, who are they're just 9-1 in their last 10 games. You've got they're 26-21. Royals 5 games above 500 at 27-22. Guardians right there at 25-21. And then the Chicago White Sox still exists at 14-34. And the worst team in the American League. It was the Orioles there, but they went ahead and fired their manager, and maybe they're on the up and up for moving forward. I kid, of course not. But that being said, it's always nice when you look up and you see the Bleacher Report power rankings and every other MLB power rankings, and you see the Tigers as the top team. So that's certainly not a bad thing. All right. Appreciate everybody tuning in to the Locked On Tigers podcast. Pinch hitting for Scott Bentley tonight. As always, it's important to remind you that today's episode is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, and to check out MLB Game Night. You got to check out the MLB Game Night. It's a look around all of Major League Baseball. And even though you made the Locked On Tigers your first listen today, for your second listen, check out all the action on the new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. You get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. All right. That is going to do it for me, because the Locked On Tigers postcast from last night is in the books. Make sure you check that out on the live tab on Locked On Tigers. The Locked On Tigers podcast, the daily show, is now in the books. We'll keep you posted on Scott's return to the action and what we're navigating in that sense. And as always, make sure you like and subscribe. And hey, it's fun to be a Tigers fan. That's the biggest takeaway in this. It is a great day to be a Detroit Tigers fan, even though they fall to the St. Louis Cardinals. We'll see if they can bounce back later today. Looking forward to that. Make sure you join me for both the postcast reaction show on Locked On Tigers and the Locked On Tigers show until Scott returns. Thanks as always, and have a wonderful rest of your evening. And we'll talk to you next time on Locked On Tigers.